Hi, I'm Elizabeth McCall. I'm the master distiller for Woodford Reserve. I started out with our parent company, Brown-Forman, in 2009 as a sensory technician. So I worked in the quality control lab doing taste testing. So sensory, but it wasn't just focused on our whiskeys, it was the entire portfolio. So we had formulated products, tequilas, even some wine that we would taste, and whiskey, of course, and vodka. We had the whole gamut. And so I just started not really knowing much about the beverage alcohol industry. I didn't know whiskey was clear before it went into the barrel. So it was very green in the space, and I learned everything in-house. And that time period, 2009, was really when a lot of excitement around bourbon whiskey was happening in the US, and so I too got excited about it. So it was fun.
So how do you end up being like a taster?
Yeah, that is, so my background is in psychology. So I went to undergrad for psychology, and my master's is in counseling psychology. And so the role of a sensory technician and evolved into being a sensory scientist sensory is all human response to the stimulus. And my was psychology, having that methodology of setting up a experiment with looking at how do humans respond to a stimulus. And then I was able to apply it to sensory. And then getting into that space, I learned to taste and really get into how do we make whiskey, what are the defects, and then just all the nuances of tasting. And so I really leaned on that part of my education to figure that out. But it was it's a lot of practice makes perfect.
That's how I like to learn things, by doing. It's always always my preferred method.
I have to screw up something at least 3 times in order to actually learn it. That is who I am as a human being.
We could be friends. So how does somebody who comes in as a taster end up being at the helm?
At this position. Well, it was really interesting. So I had been in the role as a sensory technician for 7 years before much movement had happened. So I always think young people today can tend to, I feel like there's always, what am I doing next? Where am I going next? And so I really, there was so much to learn in that space. So I really spent a lot of time learning it and developing a strong passion for quality of our products. So then having that was really I started to go, okay, I'm curious about whiskey. And so I started to learn more about how do we make it, where do defects come from. Then I started looking at internal opportunities for training and deeper education. And I also learned that I really enjoyed speaking to people and sharing any opportunity internally. I had to do education and work with the brand teams on, let's do some interesting flavor development. I just took opportunities that were open. Then the biggest moment was I took a class in internal training with our then master distiller, Chris Morris. And so that was in 2014. Took this internal class with him, and I was just being myself, showed up early, asked lots of questions, and I also was, can I help you clean up? What can I help you with? Because he was setting up tastings. That's what I did for my job day in, day out, and I just was being my authentic self. I wasn't trying to suck up, but he saw something in me. And so then, as part of that, a few months later, I had voiced, like, if there was ever an opportunity to work with the brands more, I would love that. I love speaking about just the flavor profiles and sharing education, all that. And so the two worlds sort of collided. And Chris Morris was like, well, I'm looking for somebody for this work. She seems to have the right kind of head on her shoulders. So I started training to be a master taster, which was it's an internal thing with our corporation, Brown-Forman, and it's just a extension to your job. So it wasn't all I was going to do. It was like, you're still doing your sensory job, but here, learn how to tell the brand story, learn how to do a dinner, learn how to do presentations. So I started learning that and traveling with him on different market visits, and I realized I really loved it. I loved seeing people get excited about whiskey. And I loved learning more about our side of the process, how he innovates and how he would put together master's collections. So that was really fun. And I did that for a number of years, and I got shifted to work out in production. So I left our global production team at our headquarters in Louisville, and I started working at the Woodford Reserve distillery. And just the people there, I mean, people ask what makes Woodford so special, and I'm like, the liquid itself is amazing because of the care we put into it, but it's all the people behind it that really make it so special. So I started working out there in 2016, and I was both master taster and then also senior quality control specialist at the distillery. So then my job became like a 50-50, and so I started doing more brand ambassador work. And it was sort of it was a mentorship, it was an apprenticeship, a grooming of sorts to see if this was really a good fit for me. Because the thing about the job is you have to be very technical. You have to understand how to make whiskey. You have to understand what makes good whiskey, quality, and but you also have to really enjoy talking to people and being in public and public speaking. So I always joke I have so many colleagues that are a million times smarter than me and better at the technical than I am, but they would die if they had to get up and speak in front of people. So I had that little weird combination, and so I started working on that, and again continuing that relationship with Chris Morris, building the trust, building that the perception that I could do this. I could do the public speaking piece and represent not only Woodford Reserve but Brown-Forman, the company, in a public way. And so by 2018 I was named assistant master distiller, and that's when all of my focus went into learning how to be Chris Morris. And he's my mentor, but making it my own, but learning what does a master distiller do and how does that all shape. And so I spent a lot of time with him learning that side of it. I started to manage our future innovation, but under his guidance. It was all under his guidance, but I did that. And then in 2023, when I was named master distiller, I took over the reins from him. So he's still there. I mean, he's not retired. People often are like, oh, did he retire? I'm like, no, he's still there. He's still very passionate, but it's so nice to have him because it is all mine. Woodford is mine, and he's always like, well, you have to ask Elizabeth. But if I need him and have any questions, like, he's always there to answer them and to be such a wonderful sounding board. So I'm in the most perfect position to be set up for success in this role because he's still there to help me along as I'm getting my feet underneath me with it. But it's a big role and nothing I ever dreamed I would be in, but I love it so much, and I love this brand, Woodford Reserve, so much. It's when you go to the home place, it's very equine focused, and we're set in the middle of horse country. I grew up riding horses, so it was just, from the first time I went out there, when I first joined the company in 2009, I was like, this is the best place ever. And so then to come full circle and be so involved, and we're the presenting sponsor of the Kentucky Derby, and I remember being one of the lowly people, not lowly, you're not lowly if you go to the infield, but like dreaming one day that I would get to be in the grandstand at the Derby, and now I'm right in the thick of it because we're the presenting sponsor. It's just couldn't be a better dream and come true. So I feel very fortunate. So Chris Morris is an amazing person in that he's the most kind human being you'll ever meet, but he's also just his own very unique self. So he automatically took me out. We clicked instantly. There was just something about the two of us together. We're both very humble people. He has always, I mean, he taught me Woodford, the reason why we're in any room, the reason why I'm talking to you today is not because of me, it's because of Woodford Reserve, the brand, and always keeping that as your North Star, that's why we're here, that's what we're doing. So he always instilled that in me. And so he part of like the I think what he saw in me that it would be I would be a good potential fit for the role was being humble and being a curious person and somebody who's always learning. But then, working with him, he just taught me that to always keep it focused on the whiskey, and then the focus on brand quality and integrity, and always kind of coming back to that when you're doing innovation. There's a good way to innovate. There's no real wrong way, but it's always remembering the value of the brand. At the end of the day, don't just chase the latest trend, but does it make sense for the brand, and having really strong roots in that. But filling his shoes was something that really intimidated me, because he is such a, especially in the U.S., just such a huge figure in the whiskey world. He's a member of every whiskey society that exists, and so I was nervous about that. But then it was understanding that I didn't have to necessarily fill his shoes, but wear my own shoes in the role. Even coming down to just being a woman in the role, and how do you dress? How does a master distiller dress? And I will never forget having a colleague tell me, I was like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to wear, because, you know, if you're a man, you're wearing like a suit to that, but I don't know what a woman. And she's like, you are that. So whatever you wear is what that person wears. And I'm like, oh. And so it was getting that mentality that I can do this role, taking things from him, that made it so amazing, and keeping the focus on Woodford, but then making it your own. And that's really what I've done, but it's always the integrity of the brand.
I think that's, like, I really like that analogy, that, you know, what do I wear? You wear yourself.
You wear yourself, basically. But I think we all forget that. And
Yeah.
no matter what role you're in, you're like, I'm supposed to be this thing, so I've got to dress this way. And then you're like, but wait, I am this thing, therefore however I dress is that way.
It's true. It's very true. So let's talk about being a woman in a traditionally male-dominated space like whiskey. The landscape is definitely evolving, especially for women in the drinks industry. So what do you think has changed, and what still needs to change?
We have come a very long way, and I forget, it was sometime, I've been here in London for about, since last Friday, and I was talking to somebody, and it was the question of, well, do you really like drinking whiskey? I mean, the number of times I get asked that, do you actually drink it? Like, I'm the master distiller, do you actually drink Woodford? Do you enjoy? I'm like, are you really asking me that question right now? Is that real? Because yes, of course I do. I love whiskey, and just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I can't. But so I think we have come a long way. My mother worked in the whiskey industry, and when she was there, and she worked in bottling and quality control, she was the only woman in a management role, and it's fitting because my mom is a very tough person, and so she never spoke about it like it was this woe is me thing. It was just like I had to put them in their place. But when she left the industry, because she had my brother who's older than me, and they didn't have any maternity policy. They had nothing to kind of support women in that way. So we've come a long way in terms of supporting women. We see so many more women. The entire Woodford Reserve team is predominantly women. It's kind of crazy, from production all the way to the marketing brand team. We have a few gentlemen that get to be a part of it, and it all the number of male allies I've had that have helped get me to where I am. And so I love men, and I am not like only women, but it is amazing. And so we're seeing it change because just attitudes towards women in the workplace, and women drinking. We own the buying power. We're the ones out there making the decisions on the shelves. But I think we have a long way to come in terms of really changing the perception that it's not weird for women to enjoy whiskey. And if you really think about it, I don't know why it's like, oh, well, women drink wine. And we do. I like wine, but I know a lot of men who like wine. But it's just changing that mentality and that perception. And the day that it's no longer nonchalantly asked whether I enjoy drinking whiskey or not, that will be a sign that things have changed. But it's just such a frustrating, ignorant sort of question to ask, because I always, and being in those situations, like, would you ask a man that? Would you have asked Chris Morris if he were sitting here, do you actually enjoy drinking whiskey? You would never think to ask that. But there's just this weird perception. So we're coming a long way. but it's those things that you don't really think about. So hopefully by the time my daughter is, old enough to, I don't know, be drinking alcohol legally, and people won't bat an eye when she's ordering a whiskey at the bar.
I find it really fascinating that somebody would think to ask that question.
Yeah,
of somebody in your position. Like, what?
I know. Especially somebody in my position. I'm just like, do you think I fake it? Like, what do you think I'm doing? I don't understand. Like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. And I'm like, well, yes, of course I do. I drink it almost every night. It's part of my health routine. No, I'm just kidding.
Everything in moderation, including the whiskey.
Everything in moderation. That's right.
So has the makeup of the people that work at Woodford Reserve or Brown-Forman, has it changed since you've been in your position, or was that something that was already happening around you? It was
something. So Brown-Forman as a corporation, it's an interesting company. It's always been more of, the perception's been very more of a conservative company. When I entered in 2009, they had started the Women's Employee Resource Group and started really focusing on elevating women and getting women more kind of accommodations in the workplace, looking from maternity leave and just different sorts of things. Now I think it's a very, very inclusive environment across the board. So the environment has changed. But what's so interesting is that from the moment I entered Brown-Forman, I have been on a female-dominated team my entire career there, which is going on 16 years now. And so I've always had female managers. There's only one little time period where I had a male manager, but it's always just been about the work. And I think the greatest example of that, so when we were having the conversation about when I was going to be named master distiller, I mean, I always knew it was coming. As soon as I became assistant master distiller, it was like, okay, what is the work that needs to be done to get you to be master distiller? And when we were having those conversations, the two managers, I say it's all women, that I work with a lot of women. Our PR manager is a man, and then my manager at the time was a man. And they're like, well, we're thinking July to announce you as the master distiller for Woodford Reserve. And I said, well, that is wonderful. I love that. I just have to share with you, there's a chance I'll be out on maternity leave because I'm pregnant. and it was way too early to be sharing that information. You wouldn't normally share it, but I was like, I have to tell you because I don't want us to plan this and then I'm out on maternity leave. I said, by all means, please announce it. Like, I'll just be at home with my baby. But they were like, okay, that's good to know. They're like, okay. And so then kind of noodled on it, came back together and like, well, we would either do before you go out on maternity leave or after. So there's nobody cared that I was pregnant. I mean, they were all happy for me to be pregnant, but nobody cared about it throwing some chink in the whole thing. It was like, okay, well, how do we accommodate to fit this? And we ended up making the announcement in February, and I had my son in July. And so this just speaks to, and it wasn't about that. It was like a little snippet at the end of the press release. It was like, oh, and she'll be expecting her second in July. And I remember my cousin being like, wait, did they just say that did they announce the fact that you're pregnant? And she's like, are you pregnant? I was like, I am. And I'm glad you noticed that little snippet down there, but it wasn't about, that wasn't the headline was like, oh, and she's pregnant. It was like, this is who's the next master distiller. She's qualified for it. And then, oh, by the way, she'll be expecting somebody, a new son. And so it just made me really proud to know that I work for a company that embraces that, doesn't put it out there on this big pedestal, but it was like, you can do a big job, and still have a family as well. And I just think it was a good message to women out there, because I have friends who are like, well, I don't know if I should try to have a baby or have another one because I don't know how it'll impact my work. And it was like, we can work and do it. And I laugh, I don't want to say you can do it all, because we don't want to do it all. That's a lot. But you can have moments for everything. It all can fit in some out of balanced way.
Yeah. I think it's great. Lots of us have experience of friends or family who have been in the position that you were in and have disclosed that they're pregnant and have been told, well, sorry, see you later.
Yeah.
You know, in some way, shape or form, not so overtly perhaps, but
it gets, they aren't considered for roles or anything. And I think that's starting to change, and it's little things like that help make the changes.
So it sounds to me like the work culture they actively decided to change the culture by implementing certain policies that help to nurture everybody.
Yes, yeah. Brownform, we had we still do have amazing people in leadership, but we had some really amazing women one in particular, she's now retired, but she was so fought for those things. I mean, her story was like, when she was still early on in her career, and they were like, you're doing such a great job and we want to promote you, we want to put more and more. And she's like, I broke down in my meeting and started crying because I had young children at home, and I'm like, I can't do this, like this is too much. She actually ended up taking time. They allowed her, because it was more important to the company to see her not leave the workforce, but like, how do we really see value in you, and they allowed her to come down to part-time, and then she ended up coming back when she was ready to be at full capacity again, and was one of our executive leaders, and she's the one who really pushed to change that culture. And if you're gonna have women in leadership roles or in your company, you have to see that there's not make accommodations for women, but for all employees. I mean, it even came down to, I was talking to her about paternity leave. And she was like, I was like, it's so nice that we offer paternity leave for men to be able to take that time. And she's like, it's not just about that, it's about evening the playing field. Because now, as women are of a certain age, maybe, and they could have children, and you know that they might go out on maternity leave, now you have the same thought for men. And I go, and actually men can have babies forever. It doesn't, like they can be well into their 60s and still father children, and they still get their paternity leave. So it really does change that. It's like, just because you're hiring a woman of a certain age or whatever. I mean, it doesn't even have to be that, because you get it for adopting children too. Like, it really does change that. And so I just am proud to work for a company that does that. And I think that's part of why, being in my role doesn't feel weird. It feels very normal and in an earned position.
Yeah. Which one would expect.
Which is what you would expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that we kind of have to talk about it is a bit annoying.
It is. It is annoying. But it's like, if you don't talk about it, then that's what helps change.
Yeah.
Make change.
And there seems to me like there's a lot of great women in whiskey over here, as well as over there. In the last volume of the magazine, we actually did a feature on Tennessee's distilling dames.
Oh, I love that.
So it was all about all of the women involved in Tennessee whiskey.
Okay.
So that was really interesting.
There's a lot of women in the Tennessee whiskey space, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good examples out there, yourself obviously included. What is the advantage of having women involved in whiskey?
The advantage of having women involved in whiskey is the diversity of thought, and women are really good at getting things done. We're organized. I feel like the women I get to work with in production are really we're good at collaborating with each other and becoming very inclusive about how we tackle a problem. It's no longer one person does it, and it's like we have big team meetings to kind of figure out how best to tackle it and how best to make sure we're doing it in the most efficient way from a production standpoint. So we get bottling's perspective, we get quality's perspective, we get distillery production, and then even the processing team. Like, we get everybody looking at a problem so that we can best manage it. And I think that's what I love about working with a lot of women, is like we do all of that together so nicely. And then I think, as we're in an era where we do want to welcome more women into the whiskey space, it's nice to have a woman's perspective on how women are drinking, because we're the ones drinking it. And so that's been fun. And we've really done a lot of feminine things almost to the point where they're like, can you bring it back a little bit so we're more inclusive to everyone, just because we've stepped into the fashion world and we've done a lot with fashion, and not that men aren't interested in fashion either, and which is just such an interesting kind of conversation when we think about that what makes something masculine or feminine, and we all kind of share in all the things. But I do think that's one of the things, like working with women, we're very collaborative. We're like, let's all get together and like figure this out together.
It's actually just made me think, and my husband will be editing this, so I'm going to say it. It's made me think. My husband was raised by women, and one of the things that we are struggling with at the moment is collaborating with each other, because my brain has changed recently with menopause, and so my level of collaboration is not what it was before. And he was saying to me this very morning, I just need to collaborate with people and work with people. And I think that that's something that you get from being surrounded by women and taught by women. Mm-hmm.
It's in our nature to do things together. Yeah. Like raise children together. Yeah. We're very good at togetherness.
Mm. Mm-hmm. So that's quite fascinating to me. Is it true that women have better taste buds?
I always get asked this. They're like, well, you're a woman, you have better taste buds, don't you? And I know that there's the scientific, like we have more taste buds than men and all that. But I just think but being a good taster is such a learned thing. So I do think that there's a lot of learning. And Chris Morris, my mentor, he's a great taster, and he's really, really good at picking out all the attributes. But I do find it funny because my daughter's only 5, so she's not drinking alcohol, but she has an amazing palate and sense of smell. I mean, she can walk in anywhere. She's like, why does this smell? I mean, the greatest example was I gave her a t-shirt to put on, and she's like, why does this smell like the pool? Why does it smell like my bathing suit? And I was like, well, it was in the drawer next to your bathing suit. Like, she just has a very keen sense of smell, and she can pick anything apart. And she comes by that honestly. It's just how she was born.
Excellent. So, what advice would you give to a young woman entering the drinks world today, from distilling to marketing or bartending, whatever element of the business?
I encourage women. I've done some mentorship programs and women that have been in different areas of the whiskey business, and it's just, I always tell them, stay curious and say yes to opportunities. And then if you see somewhere where things aren't going right, or you see an opportunity to improve it, say something and do something about it. Because I feel like my career, I always was just like, I was almost too ambitious. One of my managers, Amber, she and I are still really good friends, and she'll say to me, I would sit down and be like, I have all these ideas. And she's like, let me help you rein that in. But sharing what you want to do is so important. Don't just sit there and like, I didn't get this opportunity. Well, nobody's going to give you the opportunity if you don't go for it. But stay curious and just say yes. Even if you don't think you're 100% qualified, doesn't matter. Do it. How else are you going to learn? You got to make those mistakes.
You don't get.
Yeah, you don't ask, you don't get. And if you don't make mistakes, then you aren't really learning anything.
Okay, I think that's great advice. So let's talk a bit more about Woodford Reserve. Tell me a little bit about your approach to blending science and craft and the creativity in whiskey making. So what sets your tenure apart, say?
Our core expressions won't change, and we've kind of set those quality parameters there, and it's my job to keep them there and not let anybody change the whiskey as much as it might make sense from a cost perspective. It's not going to change it. We just want to, and no, I have to hold on to that. So that's going to stay the same. But when it comes to innovation, I look for, I'm not so much of the looking at some historical tie to the liquid as just liking the flavor or the creative process behind it, or the partnership that might be involved. And also sustainability is something I'm passionate about. So I've got some sustainability programs that I'm involved in, and so it's coming into our whiskey and some of the whiskeys I will have coming out in the future, and so that's something that I really like to focus on. But it's like, I think of just, this sounds yummy, so let's try to make it, and I'll look at grains and we figure it out, or finishes and things that I just think sound delicious, but also stay within the prestige of Woodford Reserve. So I'm not going to do something, I don't see any flavored whiskeys coming out in our future. Not that there's anything wrong with them, but it'll just stay within that substance and style of and high quality of Woodford.
Excellent. What do you think sets Woodford Reserve apart from the rest in the bourbon category?
In the bourbon category, Woodford, it just has this quality that is there, that is a level of prestige and premiumness that we're not cutting any corners. And from the packaging all the way through to the liquid, it resonates with me, and it's always been there. And when I taste because I often get asked the question, well, what do you drink outside of Woodford? Like, you can't possibly drink that every night. And I'm like, no, I do. And I used to have a complex about it. Like, there was something wrong with me that I'm not drinking other whiskeys, and I wasn't a true whiskey fan if I didn't drink something else. But then I'm like, no, I put my blood, sweat, and tears into Woodford Reserve. It should taste like what I want to drink every single day. And if it doesn't, then we have a problem. But it is my absolute favorite. And I think what we do, we look at it from the grains coming in, from the new make, from while it's maturing, the barrels that we make. I mean, every little piece is so highly scrutinized that that's what sets it apart. It's that, and then it's all the people that work on it that really love it too, and don't want to see anything messed with it.
You talked before about the importance of the brand story and how that was part of how you started out with the company. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the brand story?
Yeah, I love Woodford's story. So Woodford is a contemporary brand by all accounts. Like, it's not, we don't have these deep roots of heritage of some brand, if it was my granddad's, whatever. It has been a passion project built out of love since the day it began. So our distillery, come early 90s, our former chairman and CEO, he said, I want to bring a old historic distillery back to life and celebrate Kentucky whiskey heritage there, and have it be a home of many boutique whiskeys, to kind of showcase what it is about Kentucky that makes bourbon so spectacular and Kentucky whiskey so spectacular. So they brought our now Woodford Reserve distillery back to life, and it was so intentional with every aspect of what they put in, from the way that the layout is and all of that. It was just very intentional. And then when it comes to the liquid, we were so intentional. We knew it's 1996. The whiskey's in steep decline, and we're opening a distillery, which was crazy to do, but he was so in love with it, and in love with the idea of Kentucky and celebrating it. So everything's in decline. We opened a bourbon distillery, but it was a visitor experience focus, so that we wanted to have people come and see us, visit us. And then you have this spectacular package that was just very eye-catching, so people first drank Woodford with their eyes. But the thing is you can have the best package in the world, but if the liquid isn't good, nobody's going to revisit it. And from the moment people tried Woodford Reserve, they fell in love with the liquid and they wanted to revisit it. We have seen double-digit growth for the first 25 years of Woodford's time as a brand, and it's just been incredible because it tastes so good, and it was all built on, if Owsley Brown hadn't said, like, I know this brand isn't gonna make us any money for the first 15, 20 years, I don't care, let's just build it. And you can see the passion in it because it just tastes so exquisite. So the brand story is fascinating. And then because it was supposed to be the home of many boutique whiskeys, Woodford just won it out. It started winning all these awards. And so our National Historic Landmark is actually under LeBrow and Graham. So if you look it up in the US, it's the LeBrow and Graham Distillery. But we renamed it the home of Woodford Reserve because everything that comes out of there is now Woodford Reserve. And it was just built out of love. And it exists because of that today. And so I do love that. And then the intentionality behind what yeast we were using, the grain recipe, the triple pot stills are all part of that story that make Woodford so unique.
My experience of all things alcohol is Australian, and that's one of the things that I remember coming of age is going to visit places that were making wine or beer, or and having that sort of cellar door experience, and I think it really adds value to the experience. It
does. It was before Woodford opened its doors in 1996, there was one other place you could visit, a whiskey distillery that had an actual visitor experience where you could see the production process. We opened our doors in 1996. We invited all 7 distilleries that were in Kentucky at that time to come, and the governor was there, everything. And people were inspired by what they saw. And by 1999, so many other distilleries had decided to open a visitor experience that we started the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. And so you kind of look at like Woodford really, because I don't know if anybody else believed and had the belief that bourbon whiskey could be something, it could grow again until Woodford came along. It kind of was the spark that got the rest of the industry really excited again.
Yeah, that's very cool. So tell me then, what brings you to London?
What brings me to London? This is my first time to London. Never been here before. I've traveled all over the world, but this is my first time coming to London. And I'm here for just a business trip to see my colleagues. And we have a wonderful event going on at the Ned with a bar takeover of Old Fashions. We're talking about that. We are doing, and then just kind of educating the team, educating different bartenders and whatnot around. So it's just been a really fun. I feel like it's a whirlwind of a trip. But I was here over the weekend, and so I got to go to Buckingham Palace. My daughter said, "Mom, will you see the Queen?" And I was like, "Well, can't really see the Queen, and I definitely won't be seeing the King either, but I will FaceTime you from Buckingham Palace and show you." She was ready to curtsy and everything, and I was like, "Oh no." It's so sweet, though. It's so sweet. So it's really fun to be here, and so work has brought me here, and hopefully I come back.
So what's happening at the Ned?
The Ned. So this is my first time getting to know the Ned, and it's a beautiful place. The space that's open to the public is amazing, and then they'll have one of their little bars will have it's all Woodford, so it's their library bar, and it's decked out in Woodford Reserve, and they're doing wonderful different versions of an old fashioned, and so you can go there and experience all that, and it's been really it was fun. We went there the other day. The cocktails are amazing, and we'll be back in a couple of nights tomorrow night and I'm going to taste more of those cocktails.
Excellent. And so this is for the month of November, through the month of November?
Yes.
2025, just in case people are watching this in 2026 and it's not happening. I'm actually going to an event on Wednesday night, I believe. Maybe it's Thursday night, Wednesday night or Thursday night. And you're on a panel.
Oh, that was the other thing that I'm doing. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. The Worshipful Company of Distillers. I'm on a panel for that, which is going to be a wonderful panel. Rachel Berry's going to be there as well, my colleague. She's in the Scotches. So that should be really fun. That's such a prestigious society. So I was honored to be asked to speak.
Yeah. Has becoming a master distiller changed your relationship with whiskey at all?
Has becoming a master distiller changed my relationship with whiskey? I don't know if it has, because I feel like ever since I got into the role, no, I don't think it has. If you ask my husband, he'd be like, absolutely not. If anything, I have become more accepting of other brands of whiskey and more open, because when I first started, I was like fiercely brand loyal and very, I needed to tone it down. So now I am more embracing a better view of all that, but I still am very, very fiercely in love with Woodford Reserve, and it is what I drink. And now I just feel a bigger weight to carry that and to be more, I feel like I am the owner of it. I mean, one thing that has become very clear is, and I knew it with Chris Morris being in the role for 20 plus years, and then me taking it on, he was the steward of it. Brand managers come and go, production team members come and go, salespeople come and go, but he was the constant. And then I now am the constant. And so I have to take care of Woodford and shepherd it through whatever may come our way. And so it's like our little, it's it. It's just me.
What does success look like for you? Not just in barrels or awards, but in people and progress. How does it?
For me, success will be seeing Woodford continue to grow and get out there globally, and have it be a brand. So hopefully, if I retire in 25 years or so, this is a long way away. But if you think about that, I hope that it is as recognizable of a brand as, you say, Jack Daniel's. So wherever you go in the world, you can say, well, what do you work on? And because I used to be like, oh, well, I work for this company, Brown-Forman. They don't know. I'm like, a Jack Daniel's? Oh, yeah, I know that. So it would be really wonderful to have Woodford be as recognizable globally as that. And just, yeah, I think that would be kind of my biggest win.
Okay. And thinking about new innovations, collaborations, or distilling experiments, what are you most excited about now that you can tell me about?
Yeah. We have a lot, like there's one that I haven't started distilling yet that I'm super excited about, but I will say I am a big fan of an espresso martini with bourbon. I love it. So I love those coffee notes. So I'm working on a bourbon that would carry those notes through in the distillate and then finished product. It's still in the development phase. And then just those dessert grains. But then we have some fun things that are finishes that might mimic some popular classic cocktails, which is just nothing I've seen on the shelf before. And our prototypes and tasting at home, I'm so excited about it. And so I love getting that amped. So hopefully people are as excited as I am. And that's a much shorter horizon. A finish is a very short horizon. It's like 6 months. Whereas my grain recipe stuff, it might be 10 years. So yeah.
Just in time for retirement.
Yeah, I know, just in time for retirement. So yeah.
So our magazine is called Tonic. So my question to you is, what is your tonic? What's the thing that keeps you grounded, curious, and inspired?
I would say my kids, to sound totally cliche, but I am a mom. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and so just they're what keep me grounded. Because it's funny, I'll go to an event and everybody's like, what can I get you? What can I do? And like, oh, treat you so nice. And then you get home and it's like, Mom, where's my water? And you're nobody, like you're just a mom and you're just doing, so that's, and my family does that for me as well. And so that keeps me grounded and keeps me, they really are the ones I'm like, I want to just see what like their future and what's going to go on. And especially like my daughter, I just think like, you could be a little master distiller one day if you want to, or my son, but she's got a great palate. My son's only 2, so he loves milk, but they're what keep me grounded and passionate. And
yeah.
And my husband, I have to say, my husband is a very, very good supporter, and he's been my cheerleader through it all. And so I feel lucky to have somebody who's like, I just want to be a professional purse holder and like be there with you in the moment and support you, which I think that's been huge. I mean, I'm here today in London and he's taking care of the kids. So
yeah, it makes it a true partnership.
Yeah, it really is.
And what about, how do you stay curious and inspired?
I stay curious, and so I think the industry, if you want to stay competitive, you have to stay curious and inspired. So I try to when I'm at the whiskey store, like look at what's on the shelves, be aware of just what's happening. I try to read the news of what's happening in the market. And then it's just what keeps me inspired is meeting the consumers that I get to see all over the world, and just that come to the distillery and they're excited and passionate. That really keeps me like excited.
That's cool. Now, our magazine uses drink as a doorway into a destination. So if people were going to travel to Louisville, that's where you live, yes?
Yes.
Yes. So I thought I'd better just check then. What would you, if people were to travel to Louisville, what would you say that they must do? Because it's always better to get recommendations from locals.
I would say that the food scene is really good, although we were just talking and we do have a lot of cheese in Kentucky, lots of different types of cheese, and apparently there's a lot in Louisville, but I love cheese, so that's always been something I like. But no, we have really great restaurants and we do have good bars. The local bartenders are really, really educated on the many whiskeys we have, so I think explore that, lean on them to be your kind of liaisons into the whiskey space. But I think if you're going to visit, definitely try to visit some of the local distilleries. We have Old Forester is one that you can actually see how we build barrels there. We have a little mini cooperage, which is something you can't see at many other distilleries, and that's located right in Louisville. But Churchill Downs is an iconic racetrack. You can do tours there, so I always recommend that you do that as well. So explore the food scene, explore the whiskey. There are lots of great distilleries and even tasting rooms that are opening up all in the city. Churchill Downs, and then you can hire, there are lots of whiskey tourism companies that will take you out to the different distilleries, so then come out to Woodford. It's only an hour away and it is worth the drive for sure, because you get to see all of Central Horse country in Kentucky, and that's our we're the number two, or the two top industries in Kentucky, so you have to experience the thoroughbreds. You can even do a thoroughbred horse farm tour, which I would recommend as well.